This is the Plebnet panel, and I want to preface it by kind of getting a gauge on everybody in the room here. So everybody here, if I ask the stupid question, have you ever done a Bitcoin transaction? I know it's going to be basically everyone in the room. But I want to gauge how many people have done a Lightning transaction. Show of hands. Okay, good.
Yeah.
How many people here are running a Lightning node? Oh, that's encouraging. That's fantastic.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
How many people are in Plebnet? Ah,
Woohoo.
Nice.
Cool.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to be chatting about Lightning in general, but in particular Plebnet, and we'll get into what that is momentarily. But I mean, the genesis of Lightning and the user experience that has developed over the past number of years, I mean, I can tell you my first time messing around with Lightning, I had no idea what it was, how it worked. It worked completely differently than what I expected, right? I just thought, oh, my regular Bitcoin transactions are now faster or something. Like I had no idea of how it would function. And I quickly realized, what is a channel? Why do I have to open it? And wait, can I only pay this person now? I'm very confused. And so that has become easier. And of course, there's ways to utilize Lightning without having to set up your own node and everything that comes with it. But of course, those come with trade-offs. So one thing that has been assisting people as they dive down the route of not trusting, but verifying and holding their own funds and going the route of setting up a Lightning node and establishing Lightning channels, one thing that has been helping is this thing called Plebnet. And a number of people in the room familiar, part of it, girthy. But let's just start simply, and maybe I'll go with Erin here. Can you describe what is Plebnet and why did it come about? What's it solving for people or helping people with?
Yeah, Plebnet is a Lightning node running community, and we started in May of 2021 with about 15 of us. And we grew to over 6,000 within 6 months. And basically, we were just trying to help people run nodes. So we were experimenting. We were trying to figure it out. There was no information back then. So we were all just asking questions and running these experiments and just trying to figure out how to run nodes. So yeah, we just kind of sucked people in with Clubhouse. It was like this really fun strategy game where we were all kind of competing with each other and opening channels and trying to figure out what to do. And we were in Clubhouse pretty much every day just shilling Plebnet. So it just kind of spiraled into this crazy organism that just, it exploded.
That's amazing. And I should apologize. I did not do my introductions down the road. So I'm your moderator, Ben, BTC Sessions. But we'll just go down the line. Erin, we'll start with you. Can you introduce yourself really quick?
Erin, member of Plebnet. Pleb.
I go by Jestopher or Jesse, and I run a Lightning Network Explorer called Amboss.
Amboss is awesome. I'm Brekkie. I'm head of Swan Studios and a Bitcoin artist as well.
Awesome. And you're all running Lightning nodes, and some are Plebnet members. Brekkie, maybe given that we've just had a description of what Plebnet is and how it came about, I mean, you utilize Plebnet to kind of help you, dip your toes in and start understanding. So what was your initial experience with Plebnet? Like, how did you find it, and what did you find when you got there?
So let me back up a little bit to the early days of Lightning, because that'll kind of set the stage for Plebnet. I may have run one of the first, not the first Lightning nodes, but probably one of the first 100 or so Lightning nodes. And I used a guide from a guy named Staticus, and I was going through the code. I'd never coded before. I didn't know what I was typing or what I had set up. And I eventually got to the point where, okay, the node was up and it was running, and I didn't know what the hell to do with it. And that was it. That was Lightning for me. And I walked away, and I was like, okay, that was cool. I did it. I don't know what to do. Flash forward a few years later, and I think somebody pulled me into the Plebnet Telegram, or I heard about it. I don't know. It just sounded like a lot of fun. And I was like, oh, people are talking, sharing knowledge and learning how to like manage their channels. Like this is great. And a few months after that, I was deep down the Plebnet rabbit hole. And
It was so addicting.
setting fees and learning, about proper channel management, and it's.
That's great. And Jesse, I'll go to you as well. How do you play in with Plebnet and what you're doing with Amboss? How is that all kind of meshed together for you?
Yeah, so like thinking about Lightning, it's a social network as well as being a financial network. And so one of the early features that we added was like community tags for Amboss. So like we have profile pages for every single node on the Lightning network, and being able to say like what community these nodes are a part of was like sort of community recognition. Like this is an important node. This is someone that I should connect with. And Plebnet was one of the first communities out there, and everyone wants a Plebnet tag on their node. So they go to Amboss, they get approvals from the community themselves to say, hey, you're part of our network, and join us and learn how to run Lightning.
That's amazing. Okay, so I want to give a little bit more context for those that have not yet gone down the route of setting up your own Lightning node. And so one of the tricky things that you're going to experience when you first get into Lightning is it's very easy for you to take your own Bitcoin and open channels with other people. You can find a node and open a channel, and great, you can spend, but that doesn't allow you to receive. You need to either do some tricks to make the channel that you open able to receive as well, or you need somebody to open a channel with you. And this is one of the major things that Plebnet is very helpful for. So, Erin, I'm wondering if you could kind of describe how people come together and create these, what do you call them, the rings of fire?
The inbound liquidity, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually started it with the Rings of Fire before Plebnet started. So basically, in Rings of Fire, there's like 5 to 12 people, and basically you just all open a channel to each other so that you're all connected, and you all give each other like inbound and outbound liquidity. So basically, like all the nodes are balanced within the ring. So it's a really good way to to get started. And when Plebnet started, we used the same graph that Rings of Fire used. It was called Cheese Robot. So whenever you open a channel to someone and you connect to this graph, you can see there's like a very cool graph with like all the nodes and all the channels that connect, and you can see who to open to, who has big channels, and it's just a really great visual representation of the network, and that's kind of how we got started.
And there's a huge advantage to, because again, you learn this and I learned this as I was getting into opening channels. Initially, the way you would do it is maybe you'd open a channel with an individual, and you'd work out, okay, well, I'm going to open the channel, I'm going to push half of the balance to your side, and then you just send me a regular Bitcoin transaction back for half, and then we've kind of got a balanced channel. But the benefit in opening like a ring where I open to this person, they open to this person, and it rings back to you, is not only like in the first instance, okay, the person connected to me now can route payments through everyone I'm connected to and vice versa. But now all of a sudden you can route payments through everyone in that ring that you're connected to. So the liquidity of your node and your connectivity is just orders of magnitude larger by establishing one of these rings. There's so many cool little tricks. I'm wondering, Jesse, I'm going to ask you, what kind of fun tricks like this have you found community members are gravitating towards? What are some of the things and the tips and the tricks that come out of Plebnet and that you've noticed with Amboss and everything?
There's a whole bunch on this front, but kind of like the inbound liquidity idea is like recognition. It's network recognition that your node is important. And there's a couple of ways to go about that, and one really special trick is a way to deposit Lightning funds to an exchange and withdraw on chain. Now, this actually steals the liquidity from an exchange, and it allows people to do arbitrage to reallocate liquidity where it's needed and find a higher bidder for it. So this is an arbitrage trick. And in addition, on the Amboss side, we added this tool called Magma, where you can simply buy a channel, and so you don't need the clout, and you can actually just pay people to say, hey, open a channel to me. I run a business. I need to receive payments.
I love Magma. I think it's super easy and intuitive to use. It's one of those tools in my tool belt now for establishing my node and getting liquidity. I want to ask Brekkie as well. Like, you're alluding to, you can obviously on the other side of that, you can earn a little bit of Bitcoin without the counterparty risk of sitting it in FTX. It's smaller, obviously, at the moment, but again, it's self-custodied because while it's in an open channel, it's still your Bitcoin. And if it gets routed through that channel, you're getting it back through another channel. So it's always in your custody. So I'm going to go to Brekkie here because you were saying when you started Lightning, you were like, I did this, what do I do? And then you kind of walked away. Has your thinking around that changed? Have you explored the idea of either buying channels or selling channels? Is that on your radar yet?
I haven't gone to that point. Like my node right now is kind of on autopilot. I check in. Sometimes I'll open a new channel. But sort of one thing that has definitely changed for me is this idea of thinking of Lightning as something beyond, Lightning is constantly changing, and there are constantly new tools and new things to try. And I think initially I was like, I'll just set it up and that's it, set it and forget it. But you can't do that, And part of the fun is also connecting with people and learning about these new tools. And one of the things about Plebnet that I really loved is I feel like half the tools we're using now came about because someone in Plebnet was like, oh man, I really wish that we had X, Y, and Z. And someone else was like, hey, I can build that. And it gets built and it gets done. And from day one of Plebnet to whatever day we're on now, the landscape has changed incredibly.
Erin, maybe you can add on to that with some specifics in terms of the growth of Plebnet. It's a huge portion of Lightning's liquidity now. Do you know roughly the size of Plebnet in relation to all of Lightning's liquidity?
I know in maybe 6 months ago, it had a quarter of all Lightning liquidity or something. It was a lot. We were a quarter of the whole Lightning network.
From a ragtag group.
Yeah, it was insane.
and then all of a sudden, and again, I feel like Plebnet is such a Bitcoin thing, not because it's using Bitcoin, but I'm talking from an ideological sense where a bunch of randos get together and say, all right, we're just going to help each other do this, and it grows to a quarter of the entire Lightning network. Just people getting peer-to-peer. Hey, let's make a ring together. Let's do these. Let's build this tool because we need it, and it's annoying that we don't have it. The ground up grassroots feel of this is, I think, one of the most remarkable parts of it. So, does anybody want to speak to the fact that it does seem like a very grassroots kind of thing?
Yeah, it was grassroots. It was also, we were talking earlier, it's very altruistic because it was right after the El Salvador thing happened. And we're providing liquidity for people in El Salvador all around the world to use Lightning. And even though you can make money running a node, the amount of time you have to put into it to actually make a profit is not worth it. So we were building it to build the network and learn and grow and experiment. And it wasn't a money maker thing. It was a very fun, new network. Yeah.
Well, it's a learning tool. A lot of people think I have to do all this research and do all these things before getting in. No, the act of doing it is the learning medium. And so if you're feeling I don't know enough about it, it's because you haven't done it yet. And so, don't worry. Dip your toes in. Start learning. Jump into Plebnet. Start asking questions because, holy crap, like people are so gracious and willing to teach. And I had done a Lightning Node tutorial, but even still in doing that, and I got to give tip of the hat to Nate over at Voltage because he took like hours of his precious time and literally walked me through everything. Well, not everything because I quickly learned like, oh, wow, there's a whole bunch more when I got into Plebnet. But there's so many things to learn. And I'm wondering if any of you guys have perhaps any stories of Bitcoiners leveling up, like the zero to hero. Were there any things that stood out to you where, wow, this person started here and now they're doing this? Like, is there anything that comes to mind for any of you?
Not exactly, but I will. There was a time when my node went down, and it ended up being a hardware issue. And I'm not the most technical person in the entire world. I can I can figure out some things with the code and change some things around, but I really know. I still don't really know what I'm looking at. And there was someone in Plebnet who literally spent. It was probably like almost every day for a week, like a few hours with me, trying to sleuth what was going on and help me fix my node. And I was just like, can I buy you a bottle of wine as a thank you, a bottle of whiskey? And he ends up saying, no, don't worry about it. Also, I'm only like 16, so I can't drink. And I was just like, what?
Yeah, the amount of time people have spent in Plebnet helping each other is insane. I mean, even like the early days, like we were answering questions all day long. Like, and most of us had jobs too, so it became our whole world for at least that first 6 months or so. Yeah. And it still is. Like people, we're in there helping people, and then they help people, and they help people, and it just keeps growing and growing, and it's really cool to watch.
Jesse, I'm gonna ask you because this is gonna be for the people in the room that haven't yet started their own Lightning node. Haven't yet. What do you think are good first steps, first tools to utilize to make that initial dip in your toe in? Like, what would you advise somebody who's about to take that leap?
Let's see. Like personally, we use Voltage, so it's like cloud hosting. It's like by far the easiest way just to spin up a node. If there's also Blixt Wallet, which uses private channels. Super powerful tool to like get you started making Lightning payments, like using your own very light node on your phone. So this is like one of the early tools, but also like Lightning payments are ubiquitous. Just like Blue Wallet, Wallet of Satoshi, like you can start doing Lightning commerce. And I think a lot of the motivation behind Plebnet, kind of as Erin alluded to, was like this altruistic, like get people started. And this very like pay it forward mentality when it comes to teaching people. And once they start paying forward that knowledge, they can start forwarding payments as well, and earning a little bit of yield on their Bitcoin. And overall, that supports the network performing better. So these early tools, critical.
I couldn't agree more with you don't necessarily need to go out and buy all the hardware first, right? Like a lot of people worry, well, am I going to commit to doing this and then it's going to sit there and I'm not going to do anything? Like you said, you can first start into Lightning Commerce. You can play around with light wallets that are going to be just on your phone. But Blixt is cool, so Blixt, right? And so you can actually practice like, how do I open a channel? How does that work? So you don't need to have the hardware yet, but you can then go down that route. There's so many different implementations now and just like plug and play options where you can spin up an Umbral node, or if you want to get a bit more technical, Raspberry Blitz or Start9 or Citadel or Nodl. Like there's so many things out there now where you can just grab it, plug it, it's working. You don't need to worry about like the technicals of the device, and then you can just dive into, okay, I'm going to start using my Lightning node.
But should we run LND or C Lightning?
You will run C Lightning and you will be happy. But this is okay. So this is good point to touch on is obviously, Lightning, it's still early, right? And this is why Bitcoin in layers is continuing to prove to be the right approach, because this happening on Lightning, like running into bugs, running into things, well, obviously not ideal. At the same time, thank God it's not mainnet, right? And so these things will continue to happen. You get privy to them. You're careful. Maybe you run C Lightning and you run a little bit on LND, and I think more implementations the better, in terms of just protecting funds. But put into Lightning what you're okay with losing. It's still to the point where you want to be. Would you echo that? Be cautious.
It's not totally reckless anymore, but
Yeah.
there's always a chance of recklessness.
Yeah, a little less reckless than it used to be, but still, there's. What would you recommend for people to? And Erin, I'll go to you on this. Just general due diligence and caution when starting with Lightning. Is there anything that stands out that you think people should be wary of?
Yeah, if you start a node, obviously you have the Bitcoin wallet, so you need to back up your seed words and all that. Get a backup. We had a pleb early on that he had a power surge, and it literally blew up his node. So we all installed like these backup power systems for our nodes. So yeah, that was an
really
early
funny.
lesson. Yeah, it was kind of funny.
Everyone checking on each other. Did you get a backup? Did you
get a backup?
There must have been like 100 Amazon orders for backups that day.
Yeah.
And I would say too, a lot of people come in hot, like, oh, I want to be a routing node, I want to open all these channels. Like, you can just route your own payments. So if you want to come in and just open a channel or two and just keep it private and route your own payments, you can do that. You don't have to be a public node. You don't have to be routing. You don't have to be doing all this crazy channel management. It's not for everyone.
Yeah. So we're coming down to the wire here. We got a couple minutes left. I'd like to, this has become a little bit more of a broad. Yeah, we started with Plebnet, but there's so much in Lightning that's so interesting, and with some people in the room running nodes, some not. I want to take this last round here to just quickly throw out some recommendations of what people can give a try to. So I'll just do a quick one, but I'm a node junkie. By the end of December, I will have 7 nodes running on my bookshelf. I mean, I got to make videos on them, so it's not. I do have a problem though. Nonetheless, access on the fly. I love Tailscale. Tailscale has been super awesome to be able to access your node from anywhere. So if you're running Umbrel, if you're running Start9, if you're running Raspberry Blitz, and if you're running MyNode, you can put Tailscale on all of them, and it basically creates a private VPN between you and your node, and you can access it from your mobile or from your laptop anywhere on the globe instantly without even having to use Tor browser. It's pretty slick. So that's my recommendation to check out. Erin, recommendations?
Yeah, I mean, I need to try that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
Recommendations. I love Umbrel. I've been using Umbrel since the beginning. I'm running on a Raspberry Pi, super simple setup. It just kind of depends on your technical level of what you can handle. But I would say, before running a node, I had never used a command line, so I think anyone can run a node. It's easy enough now that, with a little bit of time and effort, it's never been easier to run a node.
From my end, join Plebnet, and I use Plebnet just to find out what are the problems that are happening in the Lightning Network, and where can I start to build the next tool. So the tool that has been super helpful for just getting liquidity has been Magma. We just added bid and ask side, which we call earn and connect, and so you can start earning some yield on your Bitcoin by providing liquidity on the Lightning Network.
I would just say don't be afraid to get started. You can learn how to start any one of 7 nodes on BTC Sessions YouTube page. So there's that. And I was similar to Erin. I didn't know what I was doing. Plebnet helps a lot. Don't be afraid to ask questions. People will help you. And buy a Raspberry Pi before he buys the rest of them.
Yeah.
Wait, where can people learn about Plebnet?
plebnet.org.
Awesome. Call to action for all of you guys that aren't running a Lightning node if you're curious. Do one of three things at the end of today. Either download Blixt wallet, B-L-I-X-T, and just play around on your phone and learn about opening channels. 2, if you don't want hardware but you want to actually practice running a node, go to Voltage, spin up a node on Voltage, and practice there. 3, get some hardware, maybe a plug and play. If you're looking for ease of use, Umbrel, it's very, very user-friendly. You can get started there. There's your 3 options. Thank you guys very much. Thanks to the panel. Let's give them a round of applause.